ranking pretty gowns, ranking IBD rectal treatments. Tomato, tomato. Welcome back to Chronically Musical. My name is Alice, and this channel is a place where I share videos about my life as a classical musician, as well as my experiences as a chronically ill person. Now, if you're new here and either one of those topics sounds even remotely interesting to you, you should definitely hit the subscribe button and hit the little notification bell while you're at it so you can get alerts every time I upload a new video. I post videos every Wednesday and occasionally upload a little something extra throughout the week, just depending on how I'm feeling, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. Now, today's video is going to be completely different than last week's video. I mean, these two videos are not even in the same ballpark. If last week's video just hit a line drive to third, this week's video is still in the parking lot trying to buy a ticket to the game. Did you enjoy my sports metaphor? If you missed last week's video and you're interested in watching me try on a bunch of old performance gowns and rate them, you can go ahead and click the link above and it'll take you right to it. Now, as I already mentioned, I make videos on this channel about being a professional musician and about my health journey and my life living with 2 autoimmune diseases. I realize both of these things don't really have very much in common, but they are the 2 most important and influential parts of my life right at this moment, so I'm kind of just rolling with it. Today, we're going to be talking about what it means to be an advocate for yourself and what things you can do to ensure that you are doing everything you can for you. Now, being an advocate can mean many things. It can mean playing an active role in your treatment plan, seeking out the right doctors and specialists for you, trusting yourself and your body, and if you live in the US, it can mean tackling the crazy, confusing, confounding world of health insurance. Now, don't you worry, I'm going to be making a video in the future all about health insurance and the tips and tricks and things you need to look out for in picking a plan that works for you. So hang tight. Now, for those of you who might be watching this video who have never had to experience any consistent health issues or any sort of traumatic health problems, advocating for yourself might not be something that you think of very often. But for those of us with chronic illness, it kind of becomes a way of life. We are constantly having to advocate and stick up for ourselves and really take charge of our own health and the places and ways that we receive care. So how exactly can we be our own advocate for ourselves and for our health? Well, I'm going to tell you with my top 3 tips on how to be your own advocate, which if you clicked on this video, you already know because it's in the title. All right, so my very first tip on how you can be your own best advocate is take notes. I know it sounds boring, I know it sounds simple, but seriously, take notes. Keep track of your symptoms. If you're struggling with a chronic health condition, the best thing you can do for yourself is to keep a fully expansive, detailed list of the symptoms you are experiencing and the days and times that you are experiencing them. If you want to get into even more detail, you can explain what you ate before those symptoms occurred, what you were doing. Now, there are several different ways that we can take notes and keep track of our symptoms. One of the easiest and most convenient ways is through an app. Thankfully, app developers out there have created symptom trackers designed specifically for people experiencing different chronic illnesses or just health issues in general. In my experience as an IBD patient, I really appreciate the Gali Health App as a way of tracking my symptoms. I used to use an app called Oshi, but I think they've rebranded and they're no longer IBD focused. I'm not really sure. Another arguably equally as convenient way of tracking your symptoms on your phone is just through a simple notes app. You can make your own trackers, you can customize them in whatever way you want, and again, it keeps everything in one place. I, for example, have what I like to fondly refer to as a log. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a detailed tracking of all of my bowel movements, because I found that is what I need to keep track of more than anything, and more times than not, I have my phone with me on the toilet, and I'm not embarrassed about that because I know I'm not the only person who sits on the toilet with their phone. So I found that the most convenient way for me to track when I'm going to the bathroom and how many times a day I am going to the bathroom is while I'm going to the bathroom. Now, a third way that you can keep track of your symptoms is the old-fashioned way, with just a pen and paper. If you're into bullet journaling, like I was for a brief period of time in grad school, you can even make it pretty. I even got really into the mood tracking. I then became very overwhelmed by coming up with weekly and monthly spreads and themes and stopped bullet journaling and transitioned to the Notes app on my phone. But if you're into that sort of thing, you can track your symptoms in a pretty way. There are also planners out there that exist specifically for this type of thing. I've used something called the Healthy Life Planner that I found to be a really great way to track things like my meals and my workout routine. You can also go online and download your own free printable symptom trackers. They're available on places like Pinterest. I think you could even buy one if you wanted to off of Etsy. There are a lot of different ways that one can take notes and track symptoms, but the most important part is that you just do it and do it all in one place. I wouldn't recommend having half of your symptoms written down on a piece of paper somewhere in your desk and the other half written on a Notes app in your phone. It just gets to be confusing. So if you can, try and keep specific symptoms in specific places. All right, tip number 2 on how to be your own advocate is always be prepared. I think that's the Girl Scout motto or the Boy Scout motto. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. Now, there are a couple of different things that fall under this category of always being prepared. The first one is always show up to your doctor with a list of questions already written out. Chances are, if you're going to see a doctor, whether it's a specialist or just a regular GP, you're going to have questions. And chances are you probably don't write those questions down beforehand, and then you go into that visit, ask the ones you can remember, and leave that visit having not actually asked all the questions you initially had and realizing it when it's too late. So I highly recommend coming into your appointments with your list of questions already written down. You are not going to remember all of them, and this guarantees that you get to ask the doctor everything you want in the moment without having to remember it all. Now, the second part of this, always be prepared, refers to making sure your records are where they need to be when they need to be. If you're going to see a new doctor, the number one thing you need to do before you go into the office is make sure your records are sent over. Now, the great thing about technology nowadays is most records are available online. And a lot of times, if we're seeing a doctor that's within our health network or part of the same hospital or medical group, they can access all of your records that are within that same group with just the click of a button. But there are some doctors that not only don't have access to all of your records, but also sometimes prefer hard copies. And so you might actually have to get your records faxed over to whatever doctor you're going to be seeing. It's kind of a pain, but it is so important to do, especially if you're going to see a specialist, because a lot of times they want to be able to review your files and look at your case before they even meet with you, so they are prepared and know exactly what's going on. It saves a lot of time and it makes the process easier for everybody involved. Now, the third part of my always be prepared tip kind of also relates to my first tip of taking notes, in that you really want to make sure you have a way of keeping track of everything that is said during your doctor's visit. Now, if you want to, you can bring a pen and paper and take notes or type them on your phone as best you can while you're in the visit. But what I find to be the easiest and most convenient way is to actually just record my visits. Now, I have an iPhone, so I just use the Voice Memos app, and I actually can label the recordings with the specific date and doctor and then put them into a folder within Voice Memos that's clearly labeled, so I know exactly where to find all of these recordings from past visits. I guarantee you, even if you have the best memory in the world, which I definitely do not, you are not going to be able to retain everything that is said in these appointments, especially if this is a brand new doctor and you're discussing a new diagnosis or a new treatment plan. So do yourself a favor, plan to take notes or plan to hit record before you see your doctor. It's really just another simple way that you can be your own advocate and make things easier for yourself. All right, so here is my third and final tip on how you can be your own advocate. Communication is key. Now, this is an incredibly important one, and I'm not just talking about communicating with your healthcare providers and doctors. Of course, we need to be upfront and honest with our doctors and those we are entrusting with our lives, even if the topics can be less than glamorous to discuss or embarrassing. Trust me, you don't think I get slightly uncomfortable talking about the consistency of my stool? But sometimes being an advocate also means communicating with the people in our lives who are closest to us, our friends and our family and our colleagues. Now, it can often be really difficult for those of us with chronic illness to communicate to our loved ones because we don't want to inconvenience them. We don't want to be complaining about yet another migraine or yet another flare-up of rheumatoid arthritis, yet another trip to the bathroom. It can get so old after a while for us, and so we assume it can get old for the people around us. We don't want to have to bother anyone with one more problem. I mean, just this morning I went to my dermatologist and was diagnosed with perioral dermatitis, which is incredibly common and overall relatively easy to treat, but just feels like I'm adding one more thing to my list of health issues, and it gets really old. I know expressing all of this to the people in our lives that we care about and who care about us can feel really tiresome, but let me assure you of one thing that I know for certain, even if I don't know you personally. You are not a burden, and your experiences are valid and worth discussing. The people in your life do not view you as an inconvenience. They want to know what's going on with you, and they can't just assume how you're feeling unless you tell them. No one knows what we're going through except us. It's as simple as that. All right, so those are my 3 top tips on how to be your own advocate. I hope that this video was helpful and interesting and enlightening, whether you're a person struggling with chronic illness or not. All of us have to go see doctors at one point or another in our lives, and I really hope that these 3 actionable tips are helpful to anyone and everyone. If you find yourself wanting to see more videos like this, or perhaps entirely different than this, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. If you have your own suggestions on how to be your own advocate, leave a comment below and let me know. I'd love to learn more ways of how to take an active role in my health, and I could always learn something new. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next week. Bye.